So the next step is to put some forms so that the user can actually do something with the data without having to go directly into a table and manipulate the data, which is never an option. There's never an occasion where a user should be working directly in a table. So we can do some easy things. So for instance, if I want to say, let's create a form, and I've highlighted doctors here, and I'll click on form, I should get a nice form with a subform that includes all of the visits, because this relates back to this Access has said, look, there's a one-to-many relationship here. We probably want to see the visits, and of course the visits has got a lookup from the patient ID to their name. Now, I did a separate video last week where I talked about how this isn't very good in terms of displaying the patient ID, because you may have more than one thread, and it would be nice if we could see their last name as well, not only here but also displayed here. So that's in a separate video. I'm not going to cover that right now. We'll point out something else before I get on to another thing, which is that if I click on patients, which has got a one-to-many relationship to visits as well, patients also has a one-to-many relationship to the allergies down here. So I think if I click on patients here, click create and form, it's not going to automatically pull in that subform because it doesn't know which one you're going to want down here, so it just gives up and doesn't give you any of them. So that's easy to fix then, because we can actually put our own, put the correct subform in that we want there. So if I go into design view, and in the ribbon up here in the form design, I'm going to have to create myself a little bit of space. There is a subform option, which I think is going to be hidden. I think it's, I have to click the drop down. I think that one's the subform. Yep, the tooltip tells me. So if I click down here, let's have a little think about it, bring up a nice little wizard, and I'm going to use an existing table. And I can choose which table it is that I want. So in this case, I'm going to bring up the visits table, put all the fields in, and it will automatically choose the correct relationship here because that's been set up in the relationship diagram, and finish. So now, waiting patiently. So now if I go to form view, so this patient has visited this doctor. This still needs quite a bit of work down here, but we can change what fields are displayed and how they're displayed in here. So you can go to click on any one of these and remove it if you don't want it to be there. Or you can change how it looks over here. So that's all good, and it's nice to have that control over it. And what's an interesting point to point out, this doctor's one, where it automatically knew about the visits that it wanted and it put it in there without us having to do anything about it. Now, unfortunately, for some reason, Access doesn't give us that visibility of the formatting. So actually the best thing to do is to delete it and do exactly what I just did on that previous screen. So just go here and choose the existing tables and queries, and it's going to be the visits table is the one that everything is brought up, and finish. All the defaults work after that. And if we have a quick look at that, we can see we've got the same details, but obviously it's showing other fields that we don't necessarily want to see, and it's also too small and things like that, just the typical kind of stuff. So on that topic of everything being ugly and needing fixing, so that would probably be a next step that I'd go into. So I'd hop into design view, and easy things first. Obviously this is a terrible name for it, so it should be visits by doctor, or I don't know, you decide. That's a user consideration, what you call it. Oh, I also need to make sure I save it. So if I click save, it'll ask me what I want to call it. And by default, it gives it the same name as the source table, which is not what we want. We don't want to call it a form that starts TBL, so it should be FRM. Sweet, lovely. And we'll definitely want to sort of change these things around. If I look in this form view here, there's a lot of wasted space over here with these fields being unnecessarily wide, so it would be quite typical to hop into here, highlight all of these, make them a bit narrower. I think I clicked on the wrong thing there. Oh, I do not love working with the access form manipulator. And then maybe I would put these up to here. Did that work? That was terrible, wasn't it? Like I say, I do not love working with the access form. What's it picked up this time? Did it pick anything up? I should be able to move all of those at once. So it's one of those situations where you have to do Control A, right click, layout, remove layout. I've got a feeling it is. So now let's try that again. Pick those up. Yeah, that feels better, doesn't it? And we can do some design stuff as well. So for instance, there are some design elements that we can drop into this. There's a box, I think, button, a box, rectangle. So I could sort of highlight that all of these are related. How does that look? So that would be a sensible thing to do. I don't think I've got quite the right fields in there. Well, not too bad, but got contact number and contact phone. That's not very good, is it? Anyway, and you can use color, of course, to change those things around. So if I click on and fonts and all that kind of stuff, so I've got border color, which I might want to change, perhaps background color. Try change that to something. I think I can. This brings up a color picker. That's not what I want at all, is it? Right, because it's going to be, it's now in front of everything. But I think I can send it to the back position, send to back. Yeah, that's you know, that's all right, isn't it? No, I'm doing it quick and dirty here. You can spend a bit of time and do some design work on it and talk about that in implication, user considerations and such like. Lovely. What else was I going to talk about here? Yeah, still on the configurating thing and just trying to make things look useful. One thing that I've always hated about having a subform and a form is you get two lots of navigation buttons. I'm used to this by now, but you've got these navigation buttons down here which flick between doctors. And you've also got another set of navigation buttons here which kind of go down these fields. I always think these ones are a complete waste of time, and I don't love these ones either. So in design view, there'd be an option somewhere. If I click on this subform, so you can see I'm changing the properties for the subform here. There'll be a navigation button, thing down here. Can I see it? I'm not going to bother looking very hard for it. There's definitely something where there is display navigation. I cannot see it. I'm not looking anymore. There, you can look it up, Google it. I don't know. Anyway, and I think I've talked in the past about actually including buttons to do stuff on this. So label, button, and then using the form wizard to actually create navigation buttons here. So typical things would be record operations or record navigation. So I go to next record, previous record, and have arrows, text, or picture, sorry, find, not find, I didn't want to do find, did I? I wanted to do go to next, not find next. So you get a nice little picture of a button and so on. So you can do buttons for those things. And one thing that we'll do, of course, is do report operations, so open a particular report. We'll talk about that probably in our next video. I don't want to go too deep into the nuts and bolts of what you can do here. You just need to make some consideration of the user and justify your design. You know, which fields have you chosen, how have you grouped them, how have you made it easy for the user to use your form. So if you can do a bit of thinking about that, write a little bit about that, that's all we need there. So in the next video we'll look at reports and perhaps a whole navigation system, or that might be another video as well. Okay.